Today is a good day. It's a different day, and I'm looking forward to what we are going to talk about. That last service we just had, and family, I just want you to know that it is a privilege to be able to connect with you. It's a privilege to even see that you are tuning in and that we are making something happen during this time and learning how to make these adjustments. Today, I'd like to be able, I've been asking Jill, God, what kind of message do we teach? What do I bring during this time as a pastor during this time? And everything in me wanted to get into the activism part, and I'm glad that people are taking their part in doing that. And I had to make a decision that, listen, I've already gone down that road as a church and as a group of people. Now it's a matter of let's find out where we are as a community, as a people. And so I've just been waiting for God to really speak. And I think even today, you guys will also be blessed as we go through this information on what is happening. And this is born out of, there are a lot of people, even as we do tonight, overtime. This is, I said last week, I said, my God. At one point, I was like, you got to do this. And I told one of the team members, and I'm so thankful for all of you all who help us to make this happen. Tonight will be, I had to say, we must do for whoever tunes in for overtime. There's so many things happening in families, in homes, with children, and everyone, with relationships, that my goal is to, I just heard Deron, you must do this while you have the space and the time to do it, because this will save someone's life.
Absolutely. And you think about it from a biblical standpoint, that Jesus was discipling, walking with his disciples. He had 3 years to do it. And within those 3 years, he had to talk to them about wars and rumors of wars.
Right.
Meaning things were happening. Things were happening. And when things are happening, everyone has to definitely wake up to what the realities are in the world. But you still got to live.
Right.
And you still have to lead your family. And you can't get so caught up in what's happening.
Right.
That one, don't neglect it, because anything that's happening from protests, on, it affects all of us. It affects all of us, and so we all have to remember that, as Dr. King says, injustice for one is injustice for one who it's just injustice for humanity. And so we definitely have to be on point for those kind of things. But at the same time, I don't get to neglect my own personal growth, because the world is troubled. I don't get to neglect that. And so even, I guess I just want to make a point that even, Jesus have to have a big task ahead of him, but he still has to teach. He still has to talk to his disciples about what was happening right then and there, not just what he was going to do, but also what was happening, and how to keep their head, and where to put their attention, and how to deal with all of this happening at the same time. And mostly, you hear all those stories, but they end here. Just make sure that at the end you're still standing.
And what is happening is that there is a generational divide in the families, because the younger people, and I think it was all part of this plan, I think that the younger people, when they got that message out that the younger generation was immune to this, or they were not receiving this, and they weren't getting that sick, once they released the social distancing, somewhat restrictions. You know, literally, I read a report where this one young lady said, here she was in her late 20s, and she said all 15 of us went out because we were just happy to be together and we wanted to dance and have a good time. And they did. But then when they came back, all 12 of them tested positive because they could not refrain. And the reason I'm talking about this, you must know, I am a very assertive, aggressive. I can be very assertive, aggressive in terms of my own energy, and I've had to make myself be still. I've had to make myself be quiet, and I've done that based upon what we're getting ready to teach and share with you, and hopefully to be able to control my voices, all the voices and all the different conflicting things I heard, because I said I feel Katrina. Once we saw what happened with Katrina in New Orleans, and we were watching, I said, there's nothing. I said, God, we can't sit here and just watch this. And we took a nice team of people there to be able to help. And it was one of the most horrific things I had ever seen in that Houston dome and all the things that was going on. And to see people like myself that were now at their bare backs against the wall, seeing a pastor sit on a cot with his parishioners as they sat around them in the Astrodome as we were sitting there, and seeing families come up. And so when I see the cars in the food lines, and these are not brand new cars, but people who, through no fault of their own, are now for the first time, we're unemployed. Things are happening. And so I say, God, what is the response? And what should I do? And I have to act like I don't know anything, because I don't, and neither do you. But what I must do is be still and monitor the thoughts that I'm having. Right.
I would say there is a space where it's sort of telling you, and I'll look it up so I can do a scripture reference. But it tells you, keep your head. Keep your head during this time. And when we're talking about be still and be quiet, and Jesus used the word be still, just know whenever they're talking in the New Testament, they have not left their roots of the Old Testament. Okay. This is what he did was he brought fulfillment to it. He didn't obliterate. He didn't make it unholy. He said the Lord was holy. And so I'm saying all that to you to say, because there's a scripture we read in the Old Testament, it says, and we like to quote it, be still and know that I am God. Well, how does that play out in my life? The way it plays out in my life is right about times like this when things are going on and you can't really perceive what's going on because it's new. And be still and know that I am God. Give God an opportunity to present himself to you in new ways. So we'll say, oh, God is doing a new thing. No, he's presenting himself to you in new ways. That is the new thing. That is in new ways for you to identify with God as your source. Right now, while we're in this situation, we are having and had to open our hearts and be open to God as our source in bigger and more in other ways. Why? Because a lot of our resources dried up. A lot of our resources stopped flowing because, depending on what your job is or your business is, then there was a halt. And so in this case, in spaces like this is such a wonderful time for us to go higher and to practice all those things that we read. Because it's easy to read things like focus your mind or think on things that are pure, and think on things that are noble, and think on things that are trustworthy. Well, that's easy to say. But now is the time to operate like that. Now is the time where there is conflict that we don't have the same level of escape And now we have to use that power. We don't have the power of running to the store, sitting in restaurants, well, some people do today, but we didn't have that. We didn't have that. So we had to use our own power. It's ours to use.
I was a restaurant man in terms of, I'll go and get me at least one good meal, period. I won't even deal with that. I've had to tell myself, don't do that. Proverbs 4:25, and it just happens to be, this is the voice version. It says, keep your head up, your eyes straight ahead, and your focus fixed on what is in front of you. Take care you don't stray from the straight path, the way of truth, and you will safely reach the end of your road. Do not veer off course to the right or to the left or the left. Step away from evil and leave it behind. It also says, and that's that version. And it also says this. It says, put away deceitful, lying, misleading mouth, and put devious lips far from you. Let your eyes look directly ahead toward the path of moral courage, and let your gaze be fixed straight in front of you towards the path of integrity. And so there are a lot of people who, are trying to move forward, but the first thing you've got to do is keep your head up and keep your eyes straight, and don't swerve to the left and to the right. Before I go to the next point, what do you have to share, Jill?
I just thought, for anyone who wants to know, keep your head towards moral courage. What does that mean? There's some other kind of courage, something else, some other kind of, I'll say, force versus power. Power includes faith. Power means, at least for me, when I'm operating in power, I know that I'm not working on my outcome. I know that I want an outcome. If Deron and I are doing something, I want him to get something, or he's doing something that I think needs change, and we have to have a discussion about it. I'm not going but so far, because I'm going to be in trust, not force. Force means that I have other tools I can use, manipulation. I don't allow the spirit to work. The other day I took my dog to get cut, to get groomed. And it was some kind of situation. My dog came back looking like a cat. And the woman just went and just shaved. Oh, my dog's hair, I have a little Shih Tzu. And when she brought the dog out, I was like, oh my goodness. Oh, I don't like that. And I was speaking just like this, I don't like that. Now, back in the day, I think I would have been a lot more huffier. But I said to her, I said, I don't like that. You did the best that you could, but we're in a pandemic. So while I really don't like whatever you did, I'm gonna live and understand that I'm in this kind of situation. I know my dog's hair will grow back. Now, when I did, because it was curbside service, so I couldn't go knock on the door and talk to the manager, but I did send a email, and because this person said to me, I took her a greedy dog, and she sent me back something that was unrecognizable.
And I'm almost gonna keep moving because we got to get to some other points here. But when I saw my dog, when he came in, I looked at him and I told Jill twice, maybe 3 times. At some point, you had fallen asleep, and I was watching him, and he looked totally different. I'm used to him having a beard like mine, but he was just totally cut, looking like a cat. And I said, Deron, because I wanted to say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to go up there and talk to the owner and do this because this is just wrong. And I said, Deron, let it go. Because I chose to do the right, take that thought captive. Because I said, Deron, leave that alone. It ain't worth it, man.
And just let me get to, and I'll shorten it. Listen, sorry about that. So, why am I saying it to you? Because you're going to be tempted by some things to get you to lose your head, to lose sight of what really matters right now, and to elevate the ridiculousness of it. She said, oh, well, You didn't say you want a breed cut. And I said to her, because I talked to her on the phone, I said, really? I said, so you think people go out and buy dogs that are breed so that they can send them to the groomer and then you can send them back looking like something else? I said, that's all I'm going to do. I can't believe you're saying this. How long have you been doing this? Because this is a new person who came through a place I used to go to. So what am I saying to you? All of that stuff for me on the outside is a blessing for this reason. Father, you know what I get to see? I get to see that at this point, I'm understanding what's going on. And I get to say, it is true, my dog's head will grow back. And, we'll move on. We'll move on. But this is a season where taking those thoughts captive, staying in a space so that you don't bring some outside energy into your home. This is that season because we don't know what's on the other side, but it is for a season for us to live out some of those. And it always has been the season for us to live out the things that we hear. But I think that this environment makes it more conducive because we cannot run out and cheer ourselves up with some of the things we need to cheer ourselves up with.
Mm-hmm. Ephesians 6, we read earlier, and I'd like to read it again. Ephesians 6:12 says this, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, contending only with physical opponents, but against rulers, against powers, against world forces of this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in heavenly supernatural places. Therefore, put on a complete armor of God so that you will be able to successfully resist and stand your ground in the day of evil, of danger, and having done everything that the crisis demands, to stand firm in your place, fully prepared, unmovable, victorious. We talked about Frederick Douglass last night, and he said, power concedes nothing without a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a struggle. And so what we're witnessing is that there are different factions of our communities and all these things that we're struggling. And this is about power. And what you're going through is before you get involved with some of these things, you have to know that this is about power. And if you can bring up my thought chart that I wrote down, when it says you got thoughts, and when you've got the thoughts that are happening, your thought turns into a choice, your choice into a habit. And once you that's not it. Yeah, your choice turns into a habit. And so what happens is, if you're not careful, you end up with a loss of control and you end up in bondage. And one of the things, and don't worry about the chart, one of the things, this is a season, my friends, where you must tend to the garden of your mind. There you go. You must look at your thoughts and tend to the gardens of your mind and understand that when choice comes, it's your moment to choose make a new moment.
Yes.
You do not have to make the same choice. There is Papa Diaz. That's what it is. There's this commercial that comes on in Papa John. It did to me the same thing that the commercial did with a Cinnabon or some type of Cinnabon commercial. Burger King did several years ago. I thought it was porno food commercials because it made me want that Cinnabon so bad. Well, when I see the pizzas and they got a triple or 48 layer cheese pizza and all that kind of stuff, when I see that, I have to take myself to my thought, and my thought has to be, you know what, Deron, make the right choice. And I say make the right choice because there has to be inner harmony. And I know that if I choose to go back to my lover, which was food, if I go back to that to be able to help me get through these stressful moments, then what's going to happen is I'm going to suffer from having mucus. I'm going to have to suffer from coughing up phlegm. I'm going to have to do this. So I learned to live and say, I am going to be at harmony with myself. The same thing you have to do. You have to be able to say addictions are on the rise. People are gaining weight, and I thought it was just 10 pounds, but people are gaining 20, 30, 40 pounds while they are inside. Why? Because we're doing whatever we can as opposed to saying, let's make a choice. I can make a choice to exercise. I can make a choice to eat properly. And the moment you understand that, that is when you begin to understand, I just didn't end up here by myself. I ended up here because of my thoughts and my character. And this is a season of about being. Hopefully that makes sense.
It does.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna keep going. All right. My choices do not change. My choices bring about new moments. And every moment is a new moment. And whatever you are enslaved by, beholden to, whatever attitude that you cannot drop, whatever irritation that you cannot let go, you must understand that's the very thing that's imprisoning you. And I've had to make a decision, and many of my friends and people around us have had to make a decision. I'm not going to be enslaved by old world thinking. That's what I call it now, old world thinking, because this is a new world, and behold, there is a new thing happening. Keep going, good. All right, and so Matthew 12:43, it says, now, when an unclean spirit has gone out of a man, it roams through waterless, dry, arid places in search of rest, but it does not find it. Then it says, I will return to my house from which I came, and when it arrives, it finds the place unoccupied, swept clean, and put in order. Then it goes and brings with it seven other spirits more wicked than itself, and they go and they go in and make their home there. I told Jill, I said, I've seen for my own self, I have to keep this truth. And this has to be my truth and the consequences. And consequences are either good or bad. But the consequences of my truth is to be able to say, Deron, you do not want to engage in this behavior. You do not want to finally get just totally upset because you have not been able to leave your house in a long time. And you must decide that you are going to understand that if you do this, the condition will be of who you are will be worse than when it started. And we were just dealing with one of our friends who their condition is constantly worse than when they started because they don't change their thoughts.
Absolutely. You don't pull up the root, you don't replant things, you don't. When you're at that space of choice, that's your opportunity. That's the fork in the road. You have choices. You can choose to go towards the things that matter to God or the things that matter to men. So when I hear this scripture about an unclean spirit, when an unclean spirit leaves a man, let's just make sure we know that the unclean spirit is a spirit that is not rooted in the will of God. Just say that. Just say that. And that spirit is not rooted in the will of God. What typically happens? How does this look to me? It looks like you're in this space, and maybe you've been, for most of us who are now on another side, the other side just means on another side where we are willing to yield and surrender to God. But prior to that, when we did have habits and we did have that thing in our lives that was dominating us, then maybe you heard a word, you saw, I don't know how God got his message and his light into your space. And all of a sudden, you knew that you needed to make some new choices. You knew he gave you new choices. You knew that you had to make some new decisions. And so, how did the unclean spirit leave? One, it left because you were no longer willing to positively reinforce something negative. You were no longer going to feed into that thing because somewhere along the line you was at the place where something got through.
Right.
But once something gets through, it's like any seed. Once something gets through, now you have to nurture that seed. And if you don't nurture that seed and you leave that space unoccupied, then that same spirit not rooted in the will of God. Well, guess what? When we're talking about this friend that we're talking about, she continues to try to do things that seem wholesome, but they're not rooted in the will of God. And I say this to you because sometimes we think that when we are enslaved to something that is awful ugly. Not at the beginning. No one who went out and began to try drugs and got addicted. No one stopped. I'm not gonna say, I can't speak for everyone. The people that I know did not say, you know what? I'm gonna sit here because I want to be an addict. They did. I'm gonna do this right now because I want to be enslaved. They did. They did. But what happened was one situation led to another, and they never got to the root of why are you doing this in the first place? Why, we know this with television shows, Deron, that there are people who, if there are people who can have the surgery for weight loss, and then they'll go to another addiction. There'll be some other extreme, some other lustful sensual desire. And I'm not talking about lustful sensual sex. I'm just talking about lust as in excessive in their life. Why? Because the root of what is leading you there. What don't you get? And so when I think about this friend, well, I think that those issues with abandonment, they haven't been dealt with. And this is why, I don't miss the moment to say, remember that the whole point of this gospel is that you would understand that you are included and not excluded. You are accepted. Not unacceptable, but you're accepted by God. It takes me to the scriptures where Paul is trying to convince the Gentiles now that Paul has the task of bringing two opposing groups together. And, the Jews at the time had, they had this word since they were kids. They were trained in how to have their ear on how to hear from God. And then here comes the Gentiles, and they want to come into that world and get that type of wisdom and learn those kind of things. And Paul had to tell them, no, you are saved by grace. We're saved by faith. Right. So listen, I know that these people tell you that you are uncircumcised. What's that? Trying to make you a part of another group, then make you a part of a lesser group. But I'm saying all that to say that it's the root. And so if you're listening and you had this thing with shame, and you had this bout where you just can't break it, and you're focusing on labels and outer things, listen, none of that is going to pull up the root. That's an inner work. And it starts here. It starts with understanding that the gospel that we hear of Christ, the gospel of God is restoration. Right. The gospel of God is this: I want you. I created you. I lost you. And I don't like losing you. Right. And from before this world was created, when all kinds of activity broke out in another arena, guess what? I set up a plan so that when you were born, no matter who raised you and who shaped you and how smart or ridiculous they were, I want you if nobody else wants you. I'm a father to the fathers. If no one else wants you, I want you. And if you can start and let your tears flow from right there, and let your moments happen from right there, some of the power of that addiction. See, we don't kill things. That may be the way we read things, that we crucify. What you're doing is you're taking the power away from something that is using your desires, your flesh to promote its desires, versus using my flesh to promote the desires and the will of God. So the desires are all mine. They're unclean or clean because I don't have them devoted to a will, to the will of God and the way of God, and it's not connected to God's purposes. And so there's nothing wrong with you. Not at all. There's nothing wrong with you. It is that hearts have to be circumcised. Flesh has to be cut off so that the best part of you, that part that you want to know but you can't seem to get to, it's there. It's there. So all of you was made to be a light and to do a work for God.
This is the season I know many go-getters, and I realize that I too am a go-getter, but I have to make sure that I don't get caught up in this frequency of trying to be in the know and sending everybody, all these different articles and all these different things. And I'm not anything wrong with those who do it. But for me, I said I have to get myself in order. Because one of the things you said, and I don't know, Tammy, I sent David a new slide, I emailed him. I don't know if he can pull it up or not. And if not, I'll just keep moving. I asked him to give me a heads up if he could. Because something you said, Jill, and that was this. You said that choice, that's like the fork in the road. You can either, once you get the choice, you can either make a new moment and make a new choice and go to the space of breakthrough, or you can go through to the space of self-defeat. And when there it is, he brought it up. God bless. And so when I have on here the conclusion. Some of us, we have conclusions, and our conclusions cause us to make choices. Our conclusions cause us to cuss people out. Our conclusions cause us to do what we have to do. And on here, Jill, if you see my diagram, and anybody who's watching, you make the choice. Once you make the choice, that is the new moment. And your life can either, at one end of that road is breakthrough, the other end of that road is self-defeat. If you see how I drew a road here, that means you can start over. So if you go off to the left, literally, you learn techniques, you learn prices that you pay for these different choices that you make. And then before you know it, you are now minimizing what you're doing because you're just trying to get your desire met because you don't want to feel what you're feeling. And then once you minimize, you disown. You disown what your actions are causing you. You disown. I'm still on the left road. You're disowning. And once you're disowning, you are now on the road of self-defeat. And if you see the road that I drew it in gray with the arrows, and it does a U-turn because you run into chaos, loss, and crisis. I told Jill, I said, there's several people that because we've been able to see their lives, they ended up right in another chaotic situation that is worse than what they were when they got started. Why? Because they could not deal with the decisions that they were making. Right up under that red box that says chaos and loss is self-importance. Because we feel so self-important, and then it says slave master junction, meaning we get to the point where we are so controlled by our own desires, our own choices, that we cannot get to the road of breakthrough. But when you said, Jill, if you make that choice, that's a fork in the road. I said, wow, that's like the thing that I drew quite some time ago. And that is, but if you're going to break through, you're going to have to go through, and you're going to have to go through fears. On the right side, when you see that break in the road, and you're doing a great job, David, or whoever's doing this right now, when you see that break in the road, there's a two breaks in the road on the right side, and there's a big space in between. That is where your fears, mythical fears, jump in. And you got to make, once you make a new choice, you have to also make it through your fears. You got to make it through that season of fears. And change does not happen until you make the choice to say, I'm going to go through phase one, and that's the undoing. Literally, the new choice is to undo your ego, undo your selfless desire, undo what it is that you would normally do to make yourself go back the other way. And once you undo that, the next thing after phase one, the undoing, is fulfillment. Why? Because you endure trust. You endure trust for so long, you are able to see chaos, loss, and crisis, but you see it with new eyes. I'm looking right here to the right. You see it with new eyes. Anybody who is able to look at chaos, look at loss, and look at crisis, and understand that, God, you are with me here, even with this. You are on your way to the breakthrough. Why? Because once you get through that, you enter the space of, I call it humility lane. You're in a space of whatever you decide, whatever you want, it's all right with me. Job said, naked I come, naked I go, naked I come here. Naked, he says, you can't take anything with you. Well, this is the season where, listen, there's some things I've heard that the pharaohs are doing, and I want to get upset. And I said, no, Deron, you can be affected by that, but be careful, because part of this plan is to bring about social and civil unrest. And you want to have patience. And watch this, my friends. Once you choose that road and you go to the road of breakthrough, you get all the way there, because it's only through humility that you can break through. And so, having said that, Jill, I want to go back to this and say that we are being buffeted and hit, my friends, every which way but loose. And we are having to make so many different desires. And if we're not careful, we will surround ourselves with people who will reinforce our bad decisions. And the question becomes is, who is in your company? Who have you surrounded yourself around? What friends have you made? What have you done? And have you humbled yourself? You give me this shirt. When she gave me the shirt today and said, I'm
not the stepdad. I'm the dad who stepped up.
Who stepped up. Because my daughter shows me on a lot of times, she'll send me a text and say, Dad, thanks for showing up. And even as we've chosen over the years, Jill, to raise so many different people and leaders in family, we've had to step up. And I found that if you show up, you may make mistakes, you may go through some things, but this is an important time for us. And so the reason I'm saying this as a parent, you got to show up. You got to know that the generation that you have the ability, I don't care if they're 18, 19, 20, 21, 25, 28, this generation that you have raised or you have worked with, they are going to have some of the same conversations that the children of the Great Depression had. We had to learn how to make it. And so my challenge to you is to show up, step up, and become the parent, become the dad that you're supposed to be. And as I said in the last service, this is the season of giving. You want out of where you are, give your way out. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm saying, you say, well, I don't have no money. Giving is, I can give a great compliment. I can give a great encouragement. I can tell someone, I got several emails or texts I got to send to people, thanking them for being great fathers, thanking them for being great parents. Give someone I have to get. Once I finish, I'm texting to Lita. I've already decided what I'm going to give her because my greatest hero is my greatest doctor is the one that I raised because she is a hero. She has to get up and go on that front line and do these coronavirus tests and all this stuff on a regular basis. Hey, I have to show up and I must overcome any thoughts of a stepdad, any thoughts that says you don't want to be in nobody's business. I have to say, this is what I do. Okay, this is what I do. And so sooner or later, if I make changes, my choice to choose healing and not imprisonment is the decision not to make any decisions from my flesh. Anything that's going to give me instant gratification, anything that's going to take the pain away and not let me deal with reality as it is. And truth to live by. Circumstances reveal to me what I'm made of. Circumstances let me know, the environment lets me know this is what you're made of. The environment doesn't make me, it just reveals what's inside of me.
Absolutely. And so what does that mean? Don't be afraid of yourself. Don't be afraid of what you're discovering.
That's good, Jill.
Don't be afraid of yourself. And I think that's the only way we've known, and what I've learned over the years, the only way we've known how to deal with that part of us that needs to be surrendered is to somehow not like some part of ourselves. Mm-hmm. But every part of yourself is useful. I think, like I said, the problem is it you, it's the desires. And it's the desires that are not rooted or are not motivated by love. And by the will of God, and once you can get to that place, that's where the choice is. And this is what I was reading. Acts. I had it up on my thing. Acts 26:18. And this has just become one of my favorite scriptures because it's
Acts 26:18.
It has become one of my favorite scriptures for this reason. Because it gives me the root of an understanding that it's foundational, is what I'm trying to say. Right. And this is what it says. When Paul is talking about being appointed in verse 15, I'll start Acts 26:15. And I said, who are you, Lord? This is after he hears Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And I said, who are you, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. Get up and stand on your feet. That's where it's going to start. Get up and stand on your feet. I have appeared to you for this purpose, to appoint you to serve as a minister and as a witness to testify with authority, not only to the things which you have seen, but also to the things in which I will appear to you, choosing you for myself and rescuing you from the Jewish people and from the Gentiles, to whom I am sending you, to open their spiritual eyes so that they may turn from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God. That changed me a couple of years ago. Of course, this has been here much longer, but I must have blew past something. And now I get to see, you know what? Maybe you got some part of you that you're trying to get rid of. Well, you may read it that way, but this is how you get rid of certain things. You take the power away from it. It's not going anywhere. Right. You lower its voice, or you take the power away from it. And that helped me stop working really, really hard on something that seemed to not be going away. Right. Because I thought, take this away. No. You take the power away from it. How did God position me to take it away? I get in these kind of environments. That thing that was hiding behind that big mark thing that was hiding behind some smaller things, or my attention was going into some other areas. Well, then that thing comes out, and I can't run from it anymore. And I have to face it, and I have to deal with it, and I have to still understand like me while I'm doing it. So what do? Because listen, you're going to have these two natures. Why do you need to know that? Why do you need to know that? So that you won't be that person when where the spirit leaves and you don't put anything, any new philosophy, any new concept, any new godly wisdom in that space. And now you're worse off than you were before. Why? Because you forgot that, listen, from where you came. You forgot that, listen, this is still part of your nature. You are tempted by things that probably would get in the way of your true call. But you're still tempted by those things. And nobody is tempted in any way by something that's not inside them. Even Jesus was tempted with kingdoms. Notice he wasn't tempted with sex. He was tempted by kingdoms. He was tempted to say, turn this, you're hungry, do some miracles. He was tempted by things that are well associated with his call. And that's why you can't become hateful of those things that didn't produce the kind of fruit you wanted at the time. Because those things are also signs and signals in ways that you learn some more stuff about yourself.
I want to say that literally, when you say that, I had to put in proper place when you say signs and things that it didn't go away, that you planned it or something to that nature. I, along with a couple of people with my team, we put hours into a project. Mm-hmm. And I was ready to do the television and everything. And life happened. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And things started going haywire. And I wanted to jump in, and I realized, I said, no, B, you're not going to deal with this in anger. Mm-hmm. You got to look at what your body is telling you. What is the spirit telling you? You can't make people cooperate. Mm-hmm. You can't make people line up in this season because people are dealing with their own anger issues, their own fears, their own apprehensions. And I said, well, what is happening? And then finally I realized, I said, God, you're shutting it down. I accepted. I was ready to do this. I went all the way. I went all the way through the door and put up all of the things that I had to be able to, my energies and everything, only to be able to recognize, walk away from it. Drop it. Don't let your friendships get ruined because things are not going according to what you thought was going to happen. And I made the adjustment because there was no need to allow myself to be caught up in unnecessary emotion and anger. And as you said, this is a sign from the universe and God. He's trying to show me something about myself. And are you going to be big enough to say, I wanted this to happen? But guess what? It doesn't look like it's in the cards. But I'm not going to become bitter, Deron, and lash out or do something else to now try to replace the momentum that I thought I lost. You revealed to me, and as you said, that scripture said, and I will reveal things that I will reveal to you.
Absolutely. And the story reminds me of the Abraham and his son. You know, if you read that story already through, first of all, know the benefit that we have is that stuff is already written. So we can see the beginning, we can see the middle, and we can see the end. Know that when you're in real time, you don't get to see all that. So when Abraham is doing that, as far as he's concerned, he's just following, he's just doing what he thinks he heard to do, same with you. Well, guess what? That's what happened when he went all the way. And then he had to stop. God said, you know what, now I know, not only do I know that you will obey me, that you love me because you will be your only son, but I also know that you will obey me. Mm-hmm. See, sometimes you go through these things and then you have to decide between your strong desire to complete something the way you want to complete it and the strong and the desire of God, of the universe to say, okay, this door is shutting. You don't know about that. You don't know that the world is going to change like this. You don't know that everything you did would have stopped in this pandemic anyway.
Yeah.
What you were doing, because you were working on meeting with people. Mm-hmm. You were working on doing workshops and seminars all in person.
All over the country.
All over the country. So guess what you didn't know? But see, this is why sometimes you're in this situation, because the Father is trying to see, will you obey him? Will your desire to not feel like a failure be more important than the God who went before you in the future, saw that this ain't even going to go where you think it's going to go? Help you do a course correction, but you're no longer listening to that voice, because you're now listening to the strong voice of lust, the lust to win, the lust to be right, the fear of what you might think is failure, and it's none of those things.
12 gates. We went all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Went all the way. Sat there, meditated, cleaned it out. 12 gates. We went all the way, my friends, and then got there, and then the economy crashed.
Mm-hmm.
And when the economy crashed, we had to make another change.
Mm-hmm.
And in us having to make that change, mm-hmm. we had to decide. And I was like, God, we carpeted,
and somebody paint a mural on the wall. I put a piece of wood dance floor in there.
Put a dance floor.
Yeah.
We did everything, only to recognize we have to walk away and let it go.
Which is a very good something to learn, because you really do have to not find yourself not being so attached to something that even when it looks like it's going down. And I'm not talking to people about their church, but I think people judge these things when God has to give. That's not how they go.
Right.
But that's a whole nother story.
Tell me, why did you jump in there and say that?
I jumped in and said that because when we're talking about making choices,
right.
Sometimes when you say people's conclusion is a judgment.
Right.
And you don't judge the spiritual, you don't judge this world the way you judge the other world. It doesn't have the same measures.
Right.
You know, what's spiritual and what's animated and what's an inanimate object. You can't use the same level of reason and measure, but people try to do that. But one of the things I read earlier, but I think I'm going to go to 2 Peter. Go to 2 Peter. 2 Peter, and it's talking, but what I saw was, I'm going to start at verse 8. And he talked about all the different qualities that people have, add to self-control, add to your knowledge, self-control, steadfastness, and godliness, and then your godliness, brotherly affection, and this, that, and the other. So then by the time you get to verse 8, it says, for as these qualities are yours and are increasing in you as you grow towards spiritual maturity. What am I trying? They're yours. They're in you, and they're increasing in you. But you'll only see if you and I grow towards spiritual maturity, not worldly knowledge, not the trends, not knowing all that's in the news, not being on top of all that information. But these qualities are yours. But this is what it continues to say. For as these qualities are yours and are increasing in you as you grow towards spiritual maturity, they will keep you from being useless and unproductive in regard to the true knowledge and greater understanding of our Lord Jesus Christ. For whoever lacks these qualities is blind, short-sighted, closing his spiritual eyes to the truth, having become oblivious to the fact that he was cleansed from his old sins. See, that's that spirit leaving and coming back. That's that dog returning to his vomit. See, you can start, and you can start watering the wrong seed, and you can become oblivious to the fact that you were actually cleansed, and that God called you out of something and placed your feet on what they would say on a rock to stay. Then it says, again, verse 9, for whoever lacks these qualities is blind, short-sighted, closing his spiritual eyes to the truth, having become oblivious to the fact that he was cleansed from his old sins. Therefore, believers, be all the more diligent to make certain about his calling and choosing you. Listen, therefore, believers, this is where are we right now? Make certain his calling and choosing you. You're in a house and you got two choices. You at that road. You can choose the will of an unclean spirit, a non-truth, denials, frustration, or you can choose the will of God. He says, well, while you're in this place, this is what you're going to do. And I want you to hear it how it says here. Verse 10, therefore, believers, be all the more diligent to make certain about his calling and choosing you. Listen, you're chosen. Even in your house, even during a pandemic, you are still chosen and called. Don't lose that because a whole lot is going on. This, what should I be paying attention to? God, you called me. You know what I don't get to do? I don't get to tell you that because of a pandemic, I wilded out on a woman because she cut her head. She cut my dog and he looked like a cat. You chose me. You called me. That calling and that choosing, listen, it doesn't cease because we don't like what's going on in the world. That's still true, and we are still expected to make certain that and live like we know that we were called and chosen and set apart and poured out and forgiven for our sins, and we're expected to live like that.
It was in Matthew. It was in the last scripture I want to read, where he said, I pray that your flight does not come in winter. That it does not, your flight does not come in winter. And that you would be comforted. There is a winter that is coming. And this is not about doom and gloom. This is about saying, you know what? Let me get myself mentally, physically prepared for what is to come. Because when I look at all of the people in food banks, and when I look at the increase of what we've had to do, I've had to make a decision to say, God, help me to get my mind right, because this is the time that you should be planting your winter mind garden. You should be cultivating seeds in your life of strength. And I am now going back and rereading and making new cards. That little book, notebook you gave me, I am going to put notes and all of that in there. Why? Because you all, it's warfare time. It's been warfare time. And I'm not going to be caught up in other people's arguments, and I'm not going to be caught up in civil unrest. Hey, look, even in my neighborhood, people are firing off rounds of guns. And I'm not talking about pow, pow, pow. I'm talking about people are afraid. People are going through. And I said, I'm not going to allow myself to get on the page of fear, but on the page of reverence to God. And God, help me to get prepared for what is to come. And give me the ability to speak truth in love and do what needs to be done. I told you all, be prepared for a social distancing outreach that we will do. It finally hit us on what we could possibly do. We'll work some more things out and you'll hear about that. Church, this is your pastor, your overseer, whatever you want to call me, activist, coach, you name it. I thank all of you all. I want to have them show me who wished me happy birthday, and those who are Father's Day, and those who recommend. Keita Newborn texted me at 12:25, and I was just getting ready to go to sleep, and I looked at it and I said, I'm so happy to hear from you. Why? Because I get to see, God has done a great job, and I'm grateful for this Father's Day. And to all of you fathers, I pray that you're able to find your right mind and stay focused in these very, very chaotic times. Much love. I'll talk to you, Lord willing, the next time. God's grace. I'm sure I'm going to be turning this over to somebody.
We're going to turn this over to you.
And we're doing, what's the name tonight, right?
Yes, we will be doing overtime. And
Overtime.
Something.
Yeah.
So let me turn it over to the next person. God bless you. Good to see you.
I thank both of y'all for that one. That was good. The biggest takeaway that I got from that was all of us, we have to be prepared to shift, to turn, and to change directions immediately at God's voice. When you shared the story, Deron, about all that 12 gates work that was done, I remember that season. Um, and as soon as you shared that story about all that 12 gates work that was done, God reminded me similarly about all the work that was done to advance Children's Church once upon a time, knowing full well that a change was coming. And I had to blank out all those voices of naysayers or whatever, and even within myself, because we all knew why God told us to do something. And no matter how long it lasted, the reason that we had to go through it was preparations and to teach us how to be able to shift, change directions on a down. Without practicing those exercises of big projects way back when, then we would not be prepared for, I believe, we wouldn't be prepared for the world, the way it's changing and how it's going to force us and has forced us to continue to shift and change on the down in the spirit. And I thank God for exercising those spiritual muscles. I thank God that we all had to go through that 12 gates thing. I thank God that we had to go through the Children's Church thing, the moving thing. We have so many stories, and I thank God for every last one of them, because in a time like this, there's a reason why we may feel it. It may be hitting us in different areas in different ways, and we may not like it all, but we ain't broke down either. We ain't destroyed. We aren't gone completely crazy. Now, some of us have gone completely crazy, but most of us, as Jill just said, has remembered, in spite of everything that we got coming in direction, you still called. You are still called. You still have work to do. We still have work to do. All of us. If you're still here and you still got even a portion of your right mind left, that's because God is trying to remind us all, you're called. You're called. And so now it's time to remember those stories of when you didn't think you was going to make it through, when you did work that didn't go where you thought it was going to go. But yet and still, everything turned out all right. You're called for a purpose and a time such as this. It's not time to lose your stuff. It's not time to lose your mind. It's not time to go emotionally crazy or to get into the party spirit. It's time to remember you've already overcome some stuff. We've already overcome some stuff, and we will overcome this. We don't have to know what it looks like on the other side of this. We didn't know what it looked like when we overcame this other stuff that we overcame. We didn't know what the other side of that looked, but we made it to the other side. And there is another side to whatever this is. And guess what? If you don't know it, it's because God says it's not your business. Your business is to get on my holy page and let me lead you in the way that I believe you should go, or that I created you to go, because this God told me. And I thank God for that. I thank God for both of you. I thank God for that word. I thank God for this day. And I thank God for everybody under the sound of my voice. And I pray that you were just as blessed as I was just now, just hearing it and listening to it. And so now we have to get into that spiritual space. We have to get into that holy space and say, hey, God, if you've been tripping, it's time to say I've been tripping and to come back to your senses. If you fell down, it's time to get up, brush that dust off of you, and get back on God's page. If you already got up and you wallowing in the fact that you fell down, it's time to turn that over to God and go strengthen your brothers and sisters. If you were depressed, if you were emotional, if you were going through whatever it is, if you didn't handle all of this transition well, guess what? It's okay. You're still here. God's still with you. God's still with us. Don't stay there. It's time to get up. It's time to open your eyes, open your ears, and open your heart and let him back in. He ain't never left. and his olive branch has always been stretched out to you. And so now it's time to grab hold and say, God, you know what? I may have left your page for a second. I may be here, there, everywhere, whatever. Come back home. God's arms are wide open. They always have been. And he still wants to hear your prayers. He still wants to answer your prayers. He is still with us. He still just wants you to believe. He still wants you to trust. And so with that, I just pray right now, wherever you are, under the sound of my voice, on screen, radio, however you're listening or seeing this, I want you to bow your heads right now. Bow your heads right now out of respect and to be humble to the fact that God is real and that no matter what has been going on all over this world, you're still here and you're still okay. And if you're not okay, you're going to be okay because you're still here. And so, God, I thank you so very much right now for your healing power. I thank you for your peace that will now rest upon the minds of the weary, the minds of the stressed, the minds of the emotional, or the minds of the confused. I pray peace right now in a space where there may not be peace. Father God, I pray right now, God, that if there's chaos going on around us, God, that internally, our peace may not be moved because our trust is not on what's going on around us. Our trust is in you. Father God, I pray for an increase of trust in you. I pray for an increase of trust in you, God. Bring back to all of our remembrance, God, all the many things that you've already brought us through and brought us to the other side. You were there when we went through with that man. You were there when we went through with that woman. You were there when we didn't think we was going to make it. You were there when we didn't have a dime in our pocket. You were there when there was no food to eat in the whole house. You were there with us, God. And you're here with us now, God. And we acknowledge, God, that you are here with us and that we need you. And that we want to hear your voice and we want to conform to your spirit. And we want to walk in obedience and courage in times such as these. God, I pray that we all open our hearts and spirits and minds to you right now. And I pray that you give us what it is that we need. If we need wisdom, God, I pray that we get wisdom down, God. Father God, give us wisdom even if we don't understand what's happening. May we just have the wisdom to walk through not understanding. Help us to understand that your ways are not our ways and you are so far beyond us, God. And help us to respect the fact that you are God and we are just mortal man, mortal woman. And to bow our knee and to bow our heads to your reverence and to your supreme power. Heal us, God. Bless your people, God. Nurture your people continuously during this time in your spirit. I thank you for your love. I thank you for your kindness. I thank you for the grace of life that continues day by day. I thank you for loving a wretch like me. Thank you for your forgiveness. Thank you for being my creator. Heal us in this time. Give us courage. It's in the name of Yeshua, also known as Jesus the Christ, that we give our whole life, mind, body, and spirit. All the believers that want that prayer answers, say amen.